The new Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. Introducing the all-new Apple Watch Series 10, now available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generation, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Ah yes, the magnificent Trolley Sourbright Crawler, also known as Trollicus brightolus. The worm's captivating neon colour makes it an easy gummy prey.
Trolley!
It's a surprisingly sour, invitingly chewy, staggeringly snackable species unlike anything else found on this planet.
Eat me!
Delicious. Visit Trolley.com to shop now.
Trolley, eat me!
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com. Hello, and welcome to Scare You to Sleep. I'm your host, Shelby Novak, and I'm here to read you some dark stories from Reddit. I hope you're doing well this week. I wanted to mention quickly before we begin that I have new limited edition merch available for the first time ever. The link is in the show notes, and it's available to purchase until December 3rd, and then it will be gone. I'm told everything will arrive by December 23rd as well, so it would make an excellent addition to your holiday wish list. I had the artist design it in the same vein as old school movie posters, featuring my severed ghost head and a spooky haunted house with an adjoining cemetery. Again, the link is in the show notes, and it's only available to purchase until December 3rd. There are shirts and hoodies and tank tops. There are a few different types of merch things to get: long sleeve shirts, crew necks, things like that, with the same really beautiful design. I'm really happy with what the artist did, and thank you to all of you who have already gotten yours. It means so much, and it's really helped alleviate and made me feel like a tiny bit less stressed about my emergency medical bills. You are truly angels, and I thank you. Now, let's get on with the strange and the unusual that you came for. This episode, I decided to do an eclectic mix of confessions, glitches in the Matrix, and paranormal stories. So we're in for a fun ride together. First up, I wanted to read a couple that go eerily well together. In fact, this phenomenon seems so common. I wonder if anyone listening has experienced something like this. These come from the subreddit Glitch in the Matrix. The first was posted by user Drins, and it's titled, "Friend died in 2003, but now he's alive." In 2003, I learned that a school friend had died. A friend of his girlfriend told me about it. He just died in his sleep at 23 years old. I asked if substances were involved, and she said no. She was really sad because they had just gotten engaged. I told myself I would send condolences, but I never did. I remember talking to a mutual friend a few years later, and I got the sense that it was still a really sensitive subject. A couple years ago, I got a friend request from this guy. I didn't think it was real, so I ignored it. Today, I learned that he's alive. He married the girl he was engaged to, the same one he had died next to. The mutual friend I had spoken to about it now thinks I'm crazy. I just asked him to remember the conversation we had about the death. So, this was strange enough by itself, but the first comment had a similar story. This was user C Hunter OTS. I know a guy who swears up and down that one of my coworkers died like 10 years ago, and the person is very much alive. The guy who remembers his death has all sorts of details about it in his memory. And another by Lil Red Angel 1206. There's a guy who died of a drug overdose that was in my friend group, close enough that I had been to his family's house and gatherings numerous times, vacations together, everything. When he died, it was terrible as expected, and I remember very well being upset that I couldn't attend anything due to living out of state at the time. So, around 5 years ago, after we moved back, my boyfriend's coworker, who grew up in the same county as us, is hanging out in my home, and a news article is circulating around about a man who drove under the influence and hit a toddler, and unfortunately, that poor baby passed away. The guy is now in jail for life in our area. However, the man who is now in jail for this hideous action is the guy who died many years before. The coworker and myself said at the same time, "Hey, didn't he die a few years ago?" We could not understand how this was possible. I called my close friend since childhood, and she was also in disbelief. She also remembers him dying, and it being a huge shocker and a sad event. Her mom used to date the guy who we remember dying's father, so she was also in the major circle of friends around the time we are remembering his death. Many people I know remember it, some do not. I will never ask his family, as they have been through enough, and it's been years since I've been around them. Dude is rightfully where he belongs to this day, but we are left baffled by this mystery, and will probably never understand how a glitch of this importance to certain people even happens. And another. This is by user Jingleheimerstick. This is how I discovered the Mandela effect. My ex-stepdad's aunt died. My mom and I saw the obituary on Facebook, read some comments about how the family was doing in the funeral arrangements, then we said some nice words and memories of her, and went on with our lives. A few years later, someone tells us that the ex-aunt has cancer. The dead aunt has cancer. Okay, a few years later, she died again. There were a few comments about this type of story coming up quite a bit in this particular subreddit. Some said that it could be just a mix-up with another person, especially a lot of these seem to be acquaintances, not, very close friends or family members. Misremembering, perhaps, or, the most fun, witness protection. Only a few posts away from that one was this post by user Gingerbells, titled, "My friend died and then came back to life years later." Now I've had multiple people's lives change that I've noticed, but this is one that shook me to my core. The first time it happened was in 2012. My friend's group had a guy named Poppy in it. Now, Poppy died in 2012. I remember the day it happened. He had an overdose and they found him in his home, dead. We all went to his funeral. Fast forward to 2023, and I get a friend's request on Facebook from Poppy, who is now very much alive. At first, I thought it was a joke someone was playing until I met face to face with him. Shocked beyond belief, the only person who remembered him dying is my brother, who was just as shocked as I was when I showed him his Facebook. And again, just like the last post, there were additional similar stories in the comments, like this one from user Protected Adventurer. A similar thing happened to me just last year. I should mention that I was living in the US at the time, in the Pacific Northwest. I went to school with this guy who I knew but wasn't friends with. Small town, everybody knew everybody. This guy was a jock, quite popular, played football and golf. A year or so after graduation, This would be about 1986 to 1987. He died from a heart attack while golfing. Everyone was quite shocked, as no one knew he had a heart condition, and he was so young. Now, this part gets more personal. Both of his parents wind up going into business with my parents. I also worked for my parents at that time, so I saw them every day. I remember feeling so sorry for them and how sad it must be. Flash forward to 2022. I find my school's class website, and while browsing through it, I find a memorial notice regarding his death. In 1998, not 1986. There is an obituary copy as well as a picture of the gravesite. Now, there is no way in my universe that he could have died in 1998, because my parents' company went out of business 10 years earlier, and I didn't see his parents at all after that because we moved away. I was living in the UK in 1998 and didn't have any contact with my classmates and had not discovered my class website until last year. I was completely blown away. I reconnected with another friend of mine from school in 2016 and still keep in touch with her, so I immediately contacted her to tell her about it. She vaguely remembered him dying, but not what year, although she said she believed me. I don't know what to think about it at all. And we even got one witness protection story in the comments. This is from user I Come in Pieces. Had this happen to a friend of mine. Her boyfriend OD'd, went to his funeral and everything. Years later, she started getting contacted by someone claiming to be him and even being on his profile. They called, she said it was his voice. I went with her to meet up as it was too odd. He couldn't say for a while, but it turns out his death had been faked and it was all part of a witness protection scheme. So, what do you think, dear listener? What is going on with this abundance of stories of people dying and coming back to life? These are only two of many in this subreddit. It just struck me as so strange that this happens so often to people, even if there is a reasonable explanation. It's crazy that this happens so often. What do you think is happening? Moving on. Let's go with something that's more in the normal realm of things, but still a strange story, and I'd love to hear your take on it. This was posted in the subreddit Confessions by user AnyReward954. I witnessed a car accident, saved his life, and became his stalker. Don't really know if this is an NSFW post, but just in case. About 4 years ago, I witnessed a car accident. A 16-year-old kid was pinned down under the car and his backpack was preventing him from breathing. I, a construction worker, took my utility knife, crawled under the car, cut his backpack straps, removed the backpack, and pulled him out. I thought at the time he was dead. He was unresponsive, covered in blood and bruises. First responders arrived. I was wet, freezing. I'm wearing nothing but a t-shirt. They resuscitated the kid before my eyes, and I broke into tears of joy. I asked for the kid's name after the fact, but they wouldn't tell me because he was a minor. Later on, through the news, I found out his name, and I have kept watch ever since through social media. I honestly feel a deep connection with this kid. I think of him as a son, and I would honestly do anything for him. Edit. It's always made me feel like a creep doing so. At the time, I had to create a fake Facebook account pretending to be a minor. Otherwise, as an adult, you cannot have access to the profiles of underage people. Honestly, just saying so makes me cringe. Sickening. I needed to know he was doing well. So there were various stories in the comments about this being a pretty common thing between victims and their saviors. And it goes both ways. This was from user Pets and Meditate. I was in a horrific crash several years ago when I was 22, and a deer crashed through the windshield of my car at 60 miles per hour and proceeded to kick me in the head several times before it died. Car veered into trees. The deer knocked me out. I woke up to someone holding my hand, a stranger, and they let me use their phone to call my mom. Cops came, paramedics came, fire trucks came, then a helicopter came to take me to the level 1 trauma unit. I wish I had some way of contacting the stranger that helped me. I have been trying for years to think of a way. Another user brought up the novel Choke by Chuck Palahniuk, which was also made into a movie in 2008 starring Sam Rockwell, if you're interested in watching that, in which a man intentionally chokes on food in restaurants so he'll be saved by people. Then those people want to send him gifts and cards throughout the years because they feel a connection with him. It's a really fascinating novel and movie if you ever get a chance. It's much more intense than my little description made it, so look it up first before you decide to throw it on. But another user, Throwing Chicken, replied, I was about to bring the same thing up. The phenomenon is pretty common. I think I read in some Eastern countries it's customary to send yearly gifts to someone you saved. When my dad was in his 20s, he saved some kid from drowning. They didn't keep in touch or anything, but he was profoundly sad to see his name in the obituaries some 30-plus years later. However, not everyone thought this was a great thing to practice. A deleted user said, just want to jump in and say that I am a former EMT and we were taught not to keep contact with victims of accidents. Trauma bonding is very real and not good for either party. I witnessed a suicide on the freeway and had to go to court, and I asked the court to make it so I didn't even know the name of the man who hit the leaper, because we connected that day, and I'll never forget the look in his face, and I wanted to reach out. Just saying, it may be better to leave it alone for both your sakes. To which OP replied, I have over time learned to stay away. I don't even do social media. I realized how damaging it can be. Nowadays, I only Google his name every 6 months or so, but I would lie if I say he isn't present in my thoughts. The best way to describe what I feel is the need to look after him, even if it is from far, without the world knowing. Without success, I should say, because all I really see is some random image of a person and nothing else. So what do you think about this? I understand completely the urge to maybe want to check up on a person you saved. I remember watching the movie Choke. I haven't read the novel, but I've seen the movie Choke, and I had never heard of this whole thing. And of course, it's Chuck, so it gets a little ridiculous, and there's a lot of other things involved. But I remember looking up this type of thing, and yeah, it's pretty common. Again, I understand the urge to want to do this, but I also understand where the EMT was coming from, saying it may not be the best idea. Maybe even, especially from maybe the way that the OP, I don't know what would be worse because there were a few stories about people actually reaching out to their victims and sending gifts. And OP, it seems like they were just sort of monitoring from afar, but I can see also why OP felt creepy and cringy for doing that. So I don't know. This is a difficult one. Again, maybe I think I agree with the EMT. It's probably not for the best, but I also understand why you'd want to, you know? Okay, let's go back to the glitch in the Matrix. So buckle up. This one is weird. This one was posted by user Bean Barrage. I think I drove through a wormhole or something. I got up and ready for work, hopped in the car, ready to start my 1.5 hour commute. I'm driving my normal route, and about 35 minutes into my drive, I missed my exit due to a weird traffic instance where I just couldn't get over in time. No big deal. I continue on and just let my GPS recalculate. I like using my GPS regardless of knowing the route because it gives good insights into traffic patterns and ETA, things like that. It recalculates to the next exit and even saved a couple of minutes. I was like, oh, nice. Maybe I just found a secret shortcut to work. So at this point, I blindly follow the GPS as I am unfamiliar with a lot of the route at this point. And I drive for another 20 to 25 minutes or so. This is when it gets weird. I come up on a road that seems familiar to me for some reason, and I discount the feeling because of the off chance maybe I had been there before. I then turn onto the road and realize that I am on a road that connects to the road my house is on. And I've never gone this way because I've never had a reason to. I think, wow, this is weird. How did I get turned around like that? So at this point, I know I'm going to be late, so I call my boss and let him know I made a mistake. I decide I might as well stop in my house to let the dogs out quick and go to the bathroom. This is the weirdest part. As I approach my house, I look in the driveway and my heart sinks. My car is in the driveway. Same license plate and everything. That's when I look down at the steering wheel and realize I'm driving my wife's car. I pull in the driveway and walk in the house. My wife was confused to see me because she knew I left for work not too long ago. I was surprised to see that she was awake because she works night shift at the hospital. I asked her if she by chance saw me take her keys out of her purse to drive her car that day. She reaches in her purse and pulls her keys out of her purse. I reach my hand in my pocket and pull out my keys. How was I driving her car with my keys? Our cars are very different, but the fobs are similar. I again discount it as a weird mix-up and hop back in my car to go to work this time. I text update my boss and let him know the situation. I get on the road, and this time I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss my exit. As I'm approaching the same exit I missed last time, I see emergency vehicles lining the road and the exit is closed. There was a car crash on the exit involving a semi-truck. The car that was in the accident was the same make and model as my car. I found this to be very spooky. Again, I'm forced to drive a different route to work, and at this point, I'm very flustered. I call my boss and again just update him, and he says, "No worries, you should still be able to make it in time for the meeting." I look at my clock, and it's as if I was on time. How? I called my wife just to confirm I was home a while ago, and she said that I wasn't home, but she couldn't find her keys anywhere. I was starting to freak out. I checked my phone's previous calls and texts to my boss, and there was nothing. I never called or texted him. Do I need to go to the doctor? Update. My wife found her keys. They were in my work pants that I wore the day before. Update 2. Asked my boss for a mental health day because the experience has been very unsettling. I spoke with my boss about the experience I had, and he said I have the day off to figure some stuff out. Yes, he is a very cool boss. This is what I found out. More questions than answers, really. I tried to find any news regarding the accident I saw. I have been looking up the exit and interstate to see if I can pinpoint who was in the accident, because it didn't look survivable. Nothing. I cannot find anything on the accident, and it's been eating me up. I mapped out my route and traced the exit that I thought I took. The only plausible exit that I took doesn't seem to connect or turn around back to my home in any way. It does, however, provide an alternate route to work. I haven't been back to the exit where the accident happened. I want to investigate it to see if I can see any sign of wreckage, i.e. fluid stains on the road, bits of car with matching color, etc. We'll update when I go back there. I have somewhat of an eidetic memory, I guess. Usually I can recall very specific information about an event. What someone is wearing, color of their coffee mug, etc. Things that other people usually just disregard as unimportant. That's why this part is really frustrating me. For the first time in my life, I cannot remember any details about the interaction with my wife. My wife is my rock, and she has been very supportive throughout this experience. I try to remember specific details about our interaction, but cannot seem to pick out any specific details like I usually would. She works night shift as a NICU nurse, and it was her day off, so her schedule is all over the place, and thought for sure she would be sleeping when I got home, but she was awake. The key fobs are a mystery as well, but for safe measure, I went out in the driveway and ran a test to make sure the car would not start if I had the wrong keys, because I've heard of such things being possible with certain cars. But no luck. It didn't start. I switched cars and tested vice versa, and nothing. The only plausible explanation here is that maybe I grabbed her keys from her purse after getting home unexpectedly, and then just drove my car to work. But this doesn't explain her keys being in my work pants from the day before. She found them before I returned home. I appreciate everyone's support and ideas through this weird experience, and will update if I connect any of the dots. So far, I'm rationalizing it as some kind of false memory, or perhaps a lucid daydream, or some sort of paracosm of disassociation, which doesn't necessarily make me feel any better. To people that are saying that the experience is fake, the thing is, it might be, but it felt really real to me, and I'm just trying to be rational about it. So the comments on this one basically consisted of a lot of, whoa, that's freaky, and I have so many questions, but I don't know what they are. And it didn't seem like the OP really replied to any of the questions that were asked. A few people said they had experiences like that. One person said that they drove their commute in 12 minutes, which would have only been possible if they had been driving at 120 miles per hour. I searched the OP Beam Barrage's profile because I was like, that's kind of fishy that they never replied to anything. Maybe this is just a creative writing exercise, which can happen on the internet. People lie on the internet. I don't know if you knew that, but people will lie on the internet for fake internet points. Can you believe that? But the rest of their profile is like a lot of like Buffalo Bills, a lot like very active on Reddit and in the golf subreddit. Again, Buffalo Bills subreddit, very active in this one called Ironscape. And they did reply to a different Glitch in the Matrix post, and that post is now a deleted user. The post was titled "Car Accident Outcome Changed When I Went Back," but again, the post has been deleted. The original poster was deleted, but Bean Barrage replied, "I've had some weird stuff happen like this while driving. I drive about 3 hours a day for commutes, and there's been times where I feel like I've jumped timelines before." So this is pretty consistent with what his original story was. And I don't know. It seems like maybe they just never updated. And this is like this reply to this Glitch in the Matrix post I found that I just mentioned was from only a month ago. And their original post was from 3 months ago. So maybe there will be some updates. We'll see. And it doesn't seem like Bean Barrage is just, full of beans. Would that be the right term? I don't know, but I thought that was really interesting that it's a pretty active user. Doesn't seem to be one to make up stories. Like most of their posts and comments are pretty normal. Again, Buffalo Bills, golf, stuff like that. And the other Glitch in the Matrix thing is this thing kind of going along with the original story we just saw. I don't know. What do you think about this story? I thought it was pretty interesting. It almost sounds kind of like the Post-it story that we heard before, but the one where it ended up being carbon monoxide poisoning. The symptoms kind of seem a little bit like that, but hard to say. So, again, what do you think? Okay, this next post is from the Paranormal subreddit by user Cafe Dreamer, titled, "My grandpa didn't know he was dead." About 10 or so months ago, my grandfather died. It was a sudden death that resulted in a car crash. He never knew what happened. About 2 weeks or so later, I had a dream. He was sitting at his kitchen table, saw me, and asked, "Cafe Dreamer, where am I? What's going on?" I looked at him and said, "You died." He responded with, "Oh, okay." He didn't really seem too surprised by the news. He went on to say that he keeps seeing this white light and he doesn't know what it is, but that it keeps calling to him. I told him that it's a good place where his brother and mother are, and that it's peaceful and full of love, that they're waiting for him and would very much like to see him again. But then I told him, in a very important way, that it was his choice. He didn't have to go and he could wait as long as he wanted. He thought about it for a moment, and he said he was going to wait a while. I cried, and he started to make himself a comfortable home. Then I woke up. I truly believe I got to communicate with him after he died, and that he needed me to tell him that he had died.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
Bored at home? Head over to Chumba Casino and join some serious social casino fun. With hundreds of games at your fingertips, no purchase necessary. You can play anytime, anywhere. There's a special welcome bonus waiting for you when you sign up. Play for fun, play for free, and you could even redeem some great prizes. Visit ChumbaCasino.com and get ready to reel in the fun. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
I thought this was very sweet, and the comments delivered more stories about having interactions with people who passed suddenly, like this one, by user It's Jane Doe. This reminds me of a similar situation. My dad had introduced me to a tattoo artist before my dad had passed away. Introduced in 2017, Dad passed in 2019, and he had continued to tattoo me till 2021 when he was murdered, sadly. He was killed in a gas station, and my friend, ex-boyfriend, and I had happened to go to that exact gas station a few months later because my friend needed gas. When we got there, I got out of the car, and my ex-boyfriend, who never met my tattoo artist, started saying there was a man in front of me, waving and getting mad because I couldn't see him. Now, physically, there's nobody there. So I asked him to describe the man, and he described my tattoo artist down to the gloves he always wore to tattoo. Maybe 5 days after this, I had a dream that he was finishing the tattoo he never completed, and halfway through he stopped, so I asked him what he was stopping for, and turned around. And what I saw was this beautiful white light, and he looked at me and put the tattoo needle down and said, "We'll finish this next time, sis." And I woke up with full-blown tears in my eyes because I knew he'd seen me at the gas station and came to say goodbye. That one got me misty-eyed when I first read it, I'll admit. Here's another one. This is from Pizza Hole 9323. I would like to share. About 3 years after my grandfather died in 2001, I had a dream about him in his house, sitting on his couch. Then he looked straight at me and said, "Pizza, how old would I be right now if I had lived?" I told him he would be about 104. He exclaimed, "104? That's all right then." It was one of the most lucid dreams I have ever had in my entire life. I can tell you everything he was wearing, everything that was on the wall behind him, and even how the house smelled. If I didn't get to talk to him ever again, I had that moment in that dream where we reconnected. You know, I don't know what these dreams are, but I admit I'm a pretty wild dreamer. I've mentioned that, I think, on the show many times. I lucid dream pretty frequently, and I've had many dreams that feel like more than just my brain putting information into boxes, which is what I think scientists believe dreams are. In fact, I had one just like this at one point. It was about a year after one of my best friends committed suicide when I was much younger. I've actually never told this on the show, and I haven't told many people about this, but I had a dream. I figured, why not tell it along with these? So my friend, he loved to go mountain bike, dirt biking and things. I've mentioned again, I grew up in the desert. There are a lot of sand dunes. There's a lot of old, we called them old riverbeds. They're ancient riverbeds, actually, that are dry. And so they just make these kind of crevasses in the earth. And they're really neat to go wander around and drive through and everything. Anyway, that's all to say, I had this dream, again, about a year after he passed. And I was really, obviously, really affected by his passing. It was... we were so young, and I actually lost my great-grandmother, who I was very close to, the day after he left, and it was a very tough time. And so, a year later, I was going through a really tough time. I was really tortured by his passing. I thought about him a lot, and I would just kind of be upset. You know, when you lose someone in that way, sometimes you're really angry with them. And then other times you're sad. And, you know, we were our seniors in high school when this happened. And so I was now, you know, moving on with my life. I was an adult now, and I was so upset at him for not being around. And then I was so sad. And then I was mad at myself for being upset at him. And it was this whole rush of emotions. And I got into an argument with a family member because they unfortunately were kind of very religious and said some really insensitive things about the way he passed, and it was kind of torturous, you know. So anyway, I was going through all this, and I had a dream one night, and we were in one of those old riverbeds, but we were out in the desert, and he was wearing some of his dirt bike stuff, like you would wear kind of to race in, and he was walking one of his dirt bikes. He wasn't riding it, he was walking it. And it's we kind of came upon each other in the middle of the desert, and he was walking his bike and I was walking next to him, and he was like, "Hey, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. You need to stop. It's fine. And you need to just stop worrying about me and let go." And it wasn't a long conversation. It was basically that. It was just him saying that he was fine, and I was kind of being ridiculous. At least that's the feeling I got. I don't think he said those words, but it's been so long now, I can't even remember exactly what he told me in the dream, but I remember, I have vivid images still of the dream, and I can see his face, and I can see the whole place we were in, and him just being like, "I'm fine. Just move on. It's fine. It's okay." And I woke up with so much peace. And kind of like the one person said they woke up with tears in their eyes. It was kind of like that, where it was like, oh my God. That, it didn't, again, I can't know for sure. I'm sure there are so many skeptics out there who are, would scoff at something like this, but it didn't feel like just a dream. It felt so much more real. I can't say it wasn't just a dream, but I can say that it didn't feel like just a dream. It felt like a real conversation. It felt like so much more than, going to the first day of school and you don't know where your classes are and you're also naked type thing. This felt different. And I've had dreams like that since then that felt different. But The thing that has always stayed with me, though, is that was the last time I dreamt about him. Like, he just doesn't, it's like that was it. That was him saying goodbye. And someone I was so close. And I dream about everyone I know and people who have passed, animals who have passed. And he has never shown back up. It's like he was fully like, goodbye. Don't worry about me. And my brain went, okay. You know? Anyway, now that I made myself sentimental, and let's move on. This is another one from the subreddit, Glitch in the Matrix, by user No Matter 1071. I spoke to a ghost today. While walking through International Peace Gardens in Glendale, Utah, I noticed an elderly couple sitting on a bench facing away from me. As I walked around, I saw the sweet little lady get up and walk around some bushes by the path I was on. She passed me and said, "Hi." I said hello back. As I walked around the bushes, the little old Hispanic man was still talking. He looked up at me and kind of giggled and said he was just talking to his wife. I replied, "Well, she just left to go to your car or something." I thought it was funny, this little old man still talking to himself, not realizing she had walked away. He looks at me and in his broken English tells me that she left a couple years ago, that she died. Surprised, I said, "Wait, I just said hi to her." He immediately pulled out his wallet and showed me pictures of her and explained to me how that was their favorite place in the world. It blew me away and brought me to tears. I sat with the man for a few minutes while he showed me more pictures of her and then his kids and his grandkids and how proud and happy he was, even though she was gone. He told me he still goes there because he can feel that she's there. I had to agree, because those pictures were that sweet old lady who said hi to me as she passed. Okay, that was another sweet one. I realized that I left a few sappier ones as we're getting close to the end here. I guess I'm feeling kind of sappy this week and didn't realize it. I knew I had a couple in here, but I didn't realize I didn't scramble them in there. So, you know, well, sorry to bring you on this tear-jerky journey through the paranormal with me. Okay, so this is another strange glitch in the Matrix that may have been one of my favorite types of high strangeness, and if you've listened to the show long enough, you'll know what I'm about to say. A time slip. This one is by user 1234. My wife and I saw our 5-year-old daughter, but older. This happened a few months ago. In early January, my wife and I were in the kitchen, prepping lunch and chatting. Our 5-year-old daughter was in the living room, watching TV. No one else was in the house. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and the layout of the house allows us to see a bit of the corridor and hallway outside the kitchen door. My wife was cutting up food, and I was sitting behind her. As we talked, she started to turn around to face me, but stopped midway, staring at the kitchen door. She froze up completely, and I remember asking, "What is it?" She let out a loud gasp, and then I instinctively looked toward the door as well. I saw a brief glimpse of what seemed like a person turning the corner towards the living room. It happened very fast, but I was sure I saw someone. I panicked. My immediate thought was, holy fuck, someone broke in, my daughter's alone in the living room. The only thing I thought of doing was grabbing a knife and yelled at my wife to call the police. I rushed into the corridor and into the living room. In the living room, there was nothing. My kid was just sitting on the couch watching Bluey. She looked at me and asked, "What's up?" with a confused expression. Mind you, I had a knife in my hand and probably looked crazy. I tried to play it off and asked if she saw anyone come into the room. She hadn't and was clueless about what I was talking about. I searched the living room and the rest of the house. No sign of a break-in, windows closed, and we lived on the 3rd floor. If someone had tried to escape that way, they would have fallen really bad. I checked everywhere, wardrobes, behind curtains, the front door, nothing. No signs of entry, and the front door was totally closed, and we didn't hear anyone come in or anything of the sort. This all happened within maybe 10 minutes. I went back to the kitchen where my wife was crying. She had frozen up and didn't call the cops. I calmed her down. She got scared bad and she couldn't even speak properly. When she calmed down, she explained to me what she saw. I personally only caught a very quick glimpse of the thing turning around the corner. However, my wife said she got a good look at it. She said what she saw was like a tall woman dressed in a floral dress and high heels, walking across the corridor. Neither of us had heard any sound, though. She said the woman stopped when she understood she was seen, looked at my wife in the eyes, and my wife swears the figure looked like our daughter, but older. This happened in the space of seconds when she first froze up in shock. When my wife gasped, the woman hurried and turned the corner into the living room. I only saw this last part. If I hadn't caught a glimpse of it, I would have asked my wife to go into therapy or something. But I know something was there. We never figured out what we saw, but it was definitely the strangest moment of my life. And I know it happened. Wanted to share here. By the way, before we get to the rest of this, when I was at the part where the wife was describing what she saw, all of a sudden I heard scratching in my apartment. And it's like midnight here while I'm recording, and I was very scared. Turns out it was my cat. She was scratching at something, but it wasn't like her scratching post. It was like at the floor. I'm not even gonna get into it. But oh my God, I was very scared for a moment. It was the wrong time to hear a mysterious scratching noise, that's for sure. Okay, so that was weird, but then I found this story in the comments that was so fascinating to me. I mean, that was fascinating, but listen to this one. This is from user Bongwater Bukaki, which is a great username. Stuff like this is so wild, and now I feel compelled to share my own story. I'll make it quick. My family is atheist, doesn't believe in ghosts, whatever. But in our family home growing up, we always heard footsteps upstairs, doors slamming when windows and air were off/closed. My things would go missing a lot, even if I didn't touch them, and we often made jokes about a friendly ghost. This kept up my entire childhood, but I never truly believed it and still don't really. In that house, all three of us kids had frequent night terrors in which we'd see shadow figures or spider webs across the house. As I got older, my parents decided to sell the home after their divorce. During this time, I was nearly homeless and in an abusive relationship. I was in a very dark place and losing my mind, to be quite honest. When the house was empty, I came to grab my last box of things. I sat on the floor crying and eventually walked upstairs, paced back and forth for hours, slamming doors through tears and knocking shit around, until I went to my parents' room and found yearbooks open on the floor. One of them was my mom's graduating class, 1985. To this day, I can recite the messages from people who signed those yearbooks. I watched time go by all over again, and eventually I wiped my tears to realize I never went upstairs at all. I was still on the floor crying, and I had heard footsteps walking downstairs toward me. I didn't dare go up there. I told my mom about this. Apparently, she threw away those yearbooks years before I was born and was shocked that I'd even know what they looked like or what they said. So, what the fuck happened? My family isn't convinced, but they theorize the ghost all along was just a future me, living in the past so much I was brought back there. Weird, right? I don't know what to think of it either. Slight spoilers for Mike Flanagan's The Haunting of Hill House, but this reminded me a lot of the story of the Bent Neck Lady. I know it's been out since 2018, but I don't want to give away too much. If you've seen it though, you know what I mean. So, What do you think of these two weird little glitches in the Matrix? It'd be interesting to revisit the first one in many years when the daughter does grow up to see if maybe she looks like the woman mom saw. I don't know. That one keeps giving me chills, though. I'm going to stop talking. I'm not even kidding. It's like midnight. I scared myself. I'm not talking about that one anymore. Let's move on. It has been fun, but we've come to the last story of the night. This was posted in the Paranormal subreddit by user Arisha. My dad bought a dress for my daughter, but my daughter was born 5 years after my dad died. I'm not sure I believe in the paranormal, but this experience is something that I think of often, and I would like to share it. My dad had me at 70, as unusual as that is, so when I was 20, he was 90. He was sick and in bed, and we knew he was going to die soon. I used to visit him every day and stay with him all morning. At the time, his memory wasn't very good. He mixed up names and faces a lot. A week before he died, he told me that a while ago he bought me a dress and asked me to look inside his closet. His wife came to help me. My dad told us where to look, and we found a baby dress, size 3 to 6 months. I told him he must have bought it for one of his grandchildren or as a gift for someone else. He insisted that I have to take it. He kept saying, "It's for her, take it." Which, at the time, I thought meant that it was for me, referring to me as her, as he didn't know who he was talking to. That day, I told him multiple times that this dress was not for me. He refused to listen. I took it home and never saw it again. I probably shoved it in some drawer and forgot about it. My dad died. I moved out. I got married. Years passed. Last April, my daughter was 3 months old. I opened the closet to pick her outfit for the day, and the dress was waiting there, folded, ready, still with the label on. Our cleaning lady said she found it somewhere in the room and put it there. I honestly don't know where she could have found it, as the last time I saw it was literally 5 years ago. It's even stranger that the dress only showed up when she was already 3 months, which was the dress's size. I was the one who packed everything when I moved out of my mom's house. I was the one who packed everything again when we renovated with my husband. Never saw the dress apart from the day my dad gave it to me. And I know I might be foolish, but I think it was for her, as insane as it might sound. I think the dress was for my daughter. OP went on to explain in the comments because someone asked, did it fit? How did it look? And OP said it fit her perfectly. It matched her eyes as well, blue. She's the only one in the family with blue eyes, too. We're told that we both have to have the gene for blue eyes, but apart from distant relatives, we can't really locate where they might have come from. The dress is basically a tone darker than her eyes. And if anyone was wondering about the age difference, the age of her father, and the mention of my father's wife, OP gives us the tea in the comments. Because someone asked, first, the story is great. I absolutely love that it showed back up and is blue like her eyes. That's so cool. Definitely take pictures of her in that dress and put one next to a photo of your dad. Second, your dad had you at 70, but by the time he was 90, had another wife? Was your father Mick Jagger? What are these casual details? So OP says, no, my dad only ever had one wife who was his age, but they were unofficially and secretly separated for decades despite living in the same house. My mom was 40 when they had me. This was Greece in the 90s, and my dad was a politician, so divorcing for a younger woman would have been seen as a huge scandal. Balkan culture is harsh. They kept up appearances until the end. My mom and his wife were even friends. I swear this would make more sense in a Balkan subreddit. LOL, sorry for the drama. And I thought that was quite the explanation for the whole situation. Just again, casually dropping like, oh, my father was a politician in Greece in the 90s and had a fake marriage, not a fake marriage, I guess, a real marriage. And I just thought that was really interesting. I had to throw in that tidbit before we end for the night and go on to closing the episode out and on to a little bit of a ramble. So thank you so much to everyone who wanted to share their lives on Reddit, and thanks to you for listening. You can follow the show on social media on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at Scare You to Sleep. You can follow me personally at Shelby B. Novak. Please go check out that merch. Again, it's limited edition. The art is so cool. I've never done anything like this before. You know, my merch is usually just my logo or the Omail Swamp Tour, and having an artist create this, it's been so cool. It's really neat to see. That link is in the show notes, and again, just really helps me out. So again, it's available until December 3rd. Again, put it on your, I keep saying again, again, put it on your wish list. Let your friends and family know that's what you want for the holidays. And, you know, they have until December 3rd to order it. If you have a story you'd like considered for the show, please send it to scareyoutosleep@gmail.com. You can send in fictional stories, true stories. Just be sure to put that in the subject line. Again, I love more fictional stories. Please send them my way. If you have anything that's like holiday related, winter related, I tend to get some of those around this time of year. Also put that in the subject line so I make sure to see that and make it a little bit of a priority time-wise. And let's see what else. Oh, Patreon. If you would like ad-free episodes, go to Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can get ad-free episodes. And for $3 and up, you can get all the bonus episodes. Sorry, I'm a little bit brain dead right now. It's late. I had a long week. Speaking of Patreon, I spoke at a Patreon engagement this week. They had me there to speak about some things, and it was really neat. It felt really good to be able to talk to fellow creators, met some cool people, and so yeah, yay Patreon. I don't work for them, but you know, it was just really cool. They gave me a really cool tote bag. I've already used it to walk to the store to go grocery shopping, and it was very good. It's got lots of pockets. Love a tote bag with like pockets, you know. Mostly tote bags, you get a tote bag and it's just a, you know, it's what it is. It's a bag, which is fine. It's a traditional tote bag, but this one has all these pockets. Very well made. And anyway, again, it's late. I thought I heard a ghost earlier. What are you gonna do? I haven't been sleeping very well. Is there anything else I usually say at this point before I move on to the ramble? Everything's in my link tree in the show notes. Go there. Get some merch. Again, much appreciated. If you do, and there's the traditional merch is also still available on Fourth Wall. There's links for both of them in my link tree. So if you don't want the limited edition merch and you would like a Scare You to Sleep, a regular with the logo, the red and black Scare You to Sleep merch, that is also still available. So that can also go on your wish list. Let your loved ones know. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. See, we've covered social media, the email address, Patreon. I swear there's like another thing. I'm going to remember it like at the end. Anyway, yeah, I haven't been sleeping very well lately. Don't know what's up with that. I just haven't. I can't get comfortable, and I wake up a million times a night. And then in the mornings, I'm like, I just don't sleep. I had a really weird dream last night. I was telling my friend Rosemary all about it. But basically, at one point in my dream, Hugh Jackman was like resting lovingly on my chest and was like gently caressing my knee with his Wolverine claws. So I guess it was Wolverine, not Hugh Jackman. In the dream, I thought of him as Hugh Jackman, but he had Wolverine claws. Was gently caressing my knee with his Wolverine claws. Woke up, and it was actually my cat. My knee was like out of the covers, and she was like kind of scratching at my knee, like, hello, it's time to get up, even though it was the middle of the night. And so, you know, what are you gonna do? That's the thing. It's like when I do sleep, my dreams are wild, and you know when you're having those crazy dreams and you don't feel rested when you wake up? Who knows? It's a full moon, so Maybe that has something to do with it this week. All the leading up to the full moon. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Don't listen to me. Oh, I baked this week. I baked for you. I really did. I thought of you. I was like, I kind of got the urge to bake a little bit, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it so I can talk about baking, because I have had several of you be like, I don't care if you can't eat, you need to bake something and then throw it away if you need to. I'm not kidding. I have gotten a few of those messages. Anyway, I did eat it. My appetite is much better this week. But I made cinnamon swirl bread, and it's very good. My swirl is a little wonky. It kind of turned off. It's like off to the side. But it's very good bread, and it didn't rise as much as I wanted it to. But I used AP flour and not bread flour, which is what the recipe called for. So I was kind of prepared for it not to rise as much, because it's science. It's like bread flour has more protein in it. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with all of that. But anyway, it was still very, very good. And this morning, I made it yesterday, and this morning I used it to make French toast. And oh my God, it was like the best French toast you would get at a restaurant. You know, when you go get really good French toast at a restaurant, that's exactly what it was like. It was so good. Oh my God. So good. It's Sally's Baking Addiction cinnamon swirl bread recipe, by the way. She has a quick bread that I think is also a cinnamon swirl bread. This is not a quick bread. This is a yeast bread. I'm not a huge quick bread fan, other than like banana bread. The difference is quick bread uses a different leavening. It'll use like baking powder or baking soda. And then you have traditional like yeasted bread. And I just prefer the taste of yeasted bread. You know, like beer bread would be a quick bread. There's a lot of quick bread recipes. They're just not my favorite. Again, banana bread, love it. But the other types of quick bread recipes are just not my favorite. I just love the taste of a traditional bread. But she does have, I think, a quick bread recipe if you are into quick bread and that's your jam. To me, it's more of a texture thing. I also prefer the texture of a yeasted bread because it's like chewier. Anyway, to each their own. Like I said, I think she has both, but I did the cinnamon swirl yeasted bread. Very good. Oh, so good. Pretty easy too. It's an enriched dough. The cinnamon swirl part is you just roll it out after your first proof. Slather some egg whites on it, which I didn't know that's how they do the swirl. Because I was like, what's the difference between this and like a cinnamon roll? Well, there's not butter to make the cinnamon sugar stick. It's egg whites. And so you get those kind of layers of the cinnamon swirl instead of the gooiness of like a cinnamon roll. And it's food science fascinates me to no end. So I apologize if this is so boring. But anyway, you spread the cinnamon sugar on the egg whites, roll it on up. Second proof in the oven. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. You got cinnamon bread. It's great. And then you have it for breakfast like I did. And then for a midday snack like I did. Which, slathering it in butter and putting it on a hot griddle. There's nothing like it. I'm sure you can toast it. I don't own a toaster. I know. It's not any sort of like I'm against toasters thing. It's just, again, I had to leave my entire life behind at one point last year, and I still haven't quite rebuilt my kitchen. And there's like a few things I'm still missing. Like I don't have a toaster. I don't have a blender. What else? There's like a couple things, but those are the two like main ones I notice I come up against where I'm like, oh, I could probably use one of those. And I've thought about getting an air fryer because, man, everyone loves those things. And you can apparently toast bread in them. I don't know. Let me know. Do you toast bread in an air fryer? Tell me. What's everyone got going on over there? But I just don't use a toaster enough to like justify buying one. Plus I love toasting things on a griddle. You again slather that baby in butter and put it on a hot cast iron. Like I have a Kamal that I use. Oh my God. So good. Incredible. And then unlike a toaster, it doesn't like dry out the bread. You know what I mean? I'm like explaining bread to you and toasting. What is this? You know what it is? It's late. It's time for me to go. We had a good episode though, I think. I'm patting myself on the back. I literally did. Can you hear? I patted myself on the back. I thought this was fun. I haven't done a dark Reddit in a while. I actually checked and it's been since July. So this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed putting this one together. Again, I got sappy. Didn't mean to. didn't realize I was in a sappy mood. Apparently I was. Well, we're all closer now. Hopefully it was fine. Hopefully you don't mind. And if you do, then, I don't know, come back next week. There'll be something different. It's a great thing about this show. Tell your friends. If you don't like one week, it'll be fully different the next week. And that's the way I like it. I think, sometimes I worry that I didn't just pick a direction, especially when I'm on shows. Oh, I'm a guest host on the Bloody Disgusting podcast, by the way. I know I was a few weeks ago, but now I'm a guest host for the remaining of November going into December. So I'm going to be on there a few times. One episode is already out with me on it. I think it's called Match My Freako, something like that. It's that episode. It says Freako in the title. But Xena and I had a blast. I have a blast. I love Xena so much. If you haven't checked her out. And just fun show. We talked about the news. We talked about Tony Todd, the passing of Tony Todd. So go check out the Bloody Disgusting podcast. Oh, and I made a really weird recommendation for my horror movies this week. And I'm not going to tell you what it is here. You have to go find out what it is there. Because I want my friend Xena and the Bloody Disgusting podcast to get you over there. So it's really funny and weird. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Anyway, I'm going to go make some cinnamon bread this week. If you like cinnamon. If not, then don't. If not, then make regular bread. Seriously, if you haven't tried making bread, it might not be for you. You might make one and be like, this is not for me. But I love it. It's really relaxing. It does take a long time, but most of it is just waiting because you're proofing. So it's not like you're actively doing something. So don't be intimidated when you see like the cinnamon bread recipe. I think it says it takes 4 hours, but it's just proofing. And then you do other stuff. You do your dishes. You go watch a TV show. Especially tomorrow. It's Saturday. It's the weekend. Make some bread. It's awesome. I recommend starting with not a sourdough because you got to have a sourdough starter for that, but just start with just look up sandwich bread or look up a nice milk bread, or anything with enriched dough is really good. Enriched dough means there's butter, eggs, or things added to it. The cinnamon bread is a really great, I think, a great fun starter bread, even though it's got the extra step of putting the egg whites on and the cinnamon and sugar. It's such a satisfying bread to have at the end. And your house smells amazing. It made my apartment smell like Christmas. It smelled so good. And yeah, have fun. It seems like it would be a fun one to do with kids. Just because of the sprinkling of the cinnamon and sugar and the rolling it up. And I don't know. I don't have kids, but it seems like it'd be fun. I'm going to go and you're going to go and we're going to go and it's going to be great. We're going to have a great weekend. Happy supermoon. Hope you did some manifesting. Not just do it right now. Just do some manifesting right now. It won't hurt. Think about what you want in your life for the future. And think about what you deserve and what you already have. Yeah. I'll leave you with that. Go drink your water. Go get some sleep. Sweet dreams.
Hi, friends. Do you like capitalism? Or did that word give you the creeps right down to your spine? Whoa. Okay, you've rehearsed it 500 times now. These people don't care about all that. All they want, they just want to be entertained. So fucking entertain them, man. Just do, say things that, tell them there's a sale or something. They like sales, right? Sales are good. Everybody loves a good sale, I feel like. Come on, how many times this is for Bloody Disgusting. We have to do this the right way.
Or tell them all the answers to life's problems are there in your show, in our show. Me and us as a team, our show. Tell them all that. Tell them. There's a new show coming to the thing. They all know everything's just a giant joke anyway.
Come listen to Wireland Ranch, now on Bloody FM, and catch up now, friends, because our new ritual, The Dope Show, is on the way, and I promise you've never heard anything else like it.
Every town has its dark history. Hometown Ghost Stories is a paranormal podcast that goes town to town all across the globe, exploring the world's most haunted places, tapping into the dusty archives and the darkest corners to bring you the most terrifying stories of real people and their harrowing experiences. Hometown Ghost Stories dives into the history of haunted locations and investigates why and how these places earned their terrifying reputation. Rob, Dave, and Jesse go live every Tuesday night after an uninterrupted documentary-style breakdown on the case, followed by an open discussion with live viewers. Subscribe today to listen to Hometown Ghost Stories on your preferred podcast platform, or watch the video version on YouTube and now Spotify. Head on over to the Bloody FM Podcast Network and check out Hometown Ghost Stories, if you're brave enough.
Hey everyone, Sean here from The Horror Show, a horror movie podcast, and we are now proud to be back on the Bloody FM network. Each week, my co-host Joe and I dissect some of your favorite...
All he does is talk to Mike Myers and never get a reaction. And you've been doing it for 20 years, and that person's never even acknowledged your existence.
Oh my god, Myers talks to all the guards, like, really? Just won't talk to fucking...
Most vocal prisoner that they've ever had in Haddonfield.
And not so favorite. I have one scene that I liked.
Please tell me it's the fucking construction workers.
It is.
No, it's not. Stop. All of them jumping off the building at once. That can't, you have to be fucking with me. God, that's one of the most stupid things I've ever seen in my life.
Horror movies and other cult classics. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us at bloody.fm and IHateHorror.com.